Hey there. In this video, I'm going to show you how to look for churn signals in your accounts and automatically create an automated alerting system so that you can get ahead of that and improve your overall user and customer retention. So let's go ahead and dive into Fabi here. I'm going to be using completely synthetic data, and we're going to be assuming that we are a B2B SaaS company that's looking for churn at the overall org level. So this data could obviously be in your data warehouse or your database. In this case, I just generate some synthetic data in ChatGPT and then upload that as a file, but it's effectively the same thing. So I have some event data, some user data, and some org data. And let's go ahead and actually take a look at the data here and load it into our SmartBook. So I'm going to start with the event data. Let's go ahead and run that. Okay. We have the event ID, the user ID that ties the event back to the user, the event date, and the login and the event type. So we just have two simple event types: login and widget created. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our user table. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and insert a new cell. Select start from user table, and actually, since I have these funky file names, I'm going to go and add some double quotes. Okay. Our user table has the user ID, the org ID tying the user back to the org, the name, their name, email, and creation date. And then finally, we have the org table. So let's go ahead and query that, and same thing. I have my funky file names here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then hit run. Okay, now here we have the org ID, the org name, and the creation date. Okay, so we have all our data loaded up into 3 separate data frames. Now, of course, if you're doing this on your data out of your data warehouse, you can write more sophisticated SQL queries and limit the time range you're looking at, so you're not trying to load, millions or billions of events. And you can also just, if you already know what churn signals you're looking for, you can also just write the query to pull that data in. Now, in this video, I'm not going to show you how to figure out what signals churn in your user or customer base. I'm going to assume that you've already done that, and if not, I'm also happy to do another video explaining how to do that. But let's assume that you've already kind of looked at existing customers and past churned customers and users, and you've kind of like figured out the general trend. So this is where you can use like a regression analysis or some other similar method. Now in my data here, I'm going to assume that I've already looked at that and that I figured out that if an org is creating fewer and fewer users, then that's a signal that they may churn because just inviting fewer users into our platform. And we can also maybe assume that if there are fewer and fewer events, maybe even just taking a look at simply logins, that if there are fewer logins over time or a decreasing number of logins, then that is a signal that the account may churn. So let's go ahead and ask the AI to identify those accounts that may be at risk of churning. So list out the accounts at risk of churning. An account is at risk of churning if the number of logins has been decreasing in the past 30 days and if there have been no newly created users in the past 30 days. All right, let's give the analyst agent here a minute to work through this problem. Okay, so I might actually interrupt it here. I'll let it finish, but I may reprompt it with a different prompt because I can see here that it's actually rewriting SQL queries going directly to the data source, so the files that I've uploaded, or maybe in your case it would be data warehouse. But I actually already have the data uploaded into Python data frames here, data frame 1, 2, and 3. And it would be much more elegant if it just used that directly. So let's let it run for another minute here, but then again, I may reprompt it. Okay, so let's see here, finished. So let's see what it finally came up with. Okay, let me just take a look at the results first, maybe. Accounts at risk of churning based on the analysis of login patterns and user creation data. I've identified 3 organizations at risk of churning according to the criteria: decreasing login activity in recent months, no new users created in May. Okay, and identified 3 orgs. What I want to know is how it calculated that decline actually. So let's go ahead and take a quick look here. Actually, this is going to be, let me just expand this real quick here. Okay, so I see what it's doing. So it's looking at the number of logins in April versus March and see if that has decreased. And we could actually keep that, but I'm actually going to ask it to do something slightly different. So what I'm going to ask it to do is draw a trend line and look at the overall trend that way. So let's go ahead and reject that change. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to tag the data frame. So using at data frame 1, data frame 2, data frame 3, identify accounts at risk of churning, an account at risk of churning has a decreasing number of logins in the past 30 days and no new users created in the past 30 days. And actually, let me specify this. An account at risk of churning has a decreasing number of weekly logins in the past 30 days and no new users created in the past 30 days. Okay. Yeah. So sometimes you need to nudge the AI a little bit because it can use SQL or Python. So some tasks like what I'm asking right now can actually be done in both. But I do think it'll be much easier to kind of interpret what's going on using Python, and also allows to riff if we want to come up with like slightly more complicated definitions of churn. Interesting. Okay, so it's saying that it has not identified any organizations at risk of churning. Okay, let's go ahead and it's still going. It's trying another approach. Okay, it's adding a visual now. We'll let it finish its job. All right, did quite a bit of work here, so we'll have to let's take a look at what's going on. Came up with quite a lot. So 3 organizations are at risk of churning, 3 to 5, and it's listing out the percent decrease from April to May. That's great. Common risk factors. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip. I'm gonna go here and okay. So let me add this to the SmartBook actually. Let me unpin this so I can take a look at what's going on. Okay, this is actually fairly robust. So let's just take a quick look at how it's calculating the decrease. Let's go up here. It's new user creation, identify organizations with declining login trends. Okay, so here we are. And let's take a quick look. Checking if login decreased from previous month to last month, if previous month greater than 0, and row last month is less than row previous month, then we'll calculate the percent decrease. Okay, only consider significant decreases. So it's actually pretty cool. It's going to ignore anything that's less than a 20% decrease. Actually, I wouldn't have thought about that, but it's kind of cool because it also means I can like tweak this number and I can create like a variable here potentially, so I can adjust that as needed. But actually, this is great. So this is exactly what I wanted. And then I'm assuming the new user creation is going to be fairly straightforward, but it's identifying the current month, recent users. Yep, okay. And then it's joining the two with the at-risk orgs here. Org for org in, orgs at risk. Orgs at risk should be up here. Yes, okay. If org in, orgs with no new users. Okay, fantastic. So I think we're in business here. Now, one thing I will note that I'm not going to mess around with here on this video is the current month is hard-coded here, so probably don't want that. I would probably want to do like last 30 days or something like that. But I'll keep this for now, and we can always kind of come back and iterate on that. But this is perfect. So now I actually have my orgs that are at risk, and that's stored as, let's go back up here real quick. That is stored as, I believe, my summary data frame. Yes. Okay. So now I have my 3 orgs with the information in the summary data frame, and I will now create an alerting system so that I get informed on a weekly basis if if some customers are at risk of churning. So what I can do is I can go ahead and insert a cell, and let's say I want to receive this via email. I'm simply going to click on the email send, and then I'm going to enter the subject. Let's say accounts at risk of churning. Recipients, this is where you will say john@acme.com, whoever in your org you want to send this to. You can add multiple recipients to. You can say, all@acme.com. And then in the message, we're going to say orgs or customers at risk of churning, new customers, or sorry, I should say like newly identified customers at risk of churning. And then I'm going to say curly brackets here, summary data frame. And let's go ahead and preview this. And there we go. Now we have our table inserted in our email. And I can even go ahead and add this chart if I want. So let's see what image this is. It's called Fig. Okay, great. So, and then Fig. There we go. So I have my sample. This is just a draft email, but I have my table. I have my chart with my decreases here, so I can see which ones actually matter. So maybe I want to focus more on org 3 or org 2 as opposed to org 5. Org 5 looks like maybe a bit of a blip. And then when I'm ready to send this, all I have to do is, and you can also switch this to run mode and just run it, hit run, and see it in your inbox, see what it looks like. This will render an HTML table, so it's great for executives or anyone else who wants to read the email on their phone. And the image is also going to be fully dynamic as well. And when you're ready to actually schedule this on a weekly basis, you simply go to publish. You can build out a report if you want here, or you don't have to, and you can simply go and schedule this to run on a weekly basis and then finish and view report, and that will publish the report along with the workflow under the hood that will send out, that will rerun this analysis and then send out the email on a regular cadence. And just like that, that will help you improve retention because you'll be able to identify your customers that are at risk of churn before they actually churn. If you find this video helpful, as always, please follow and like. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down below.